Everyone, and welcome to the That's Us Completely Blown It weekly update for Monday the 13th of May 2024, or 2024 I guess I should probably say it right. It's Gary here again, and I guess that'll be it then for the league campaign for yet another season. That's us 6 points behind, 2 games left, inferior goal difference. Do you know what? Right, I'm always the glass half full guy, definitely I am, but sometimes it's difficult to be that. Or certainly difficult to consistently be that when things aren't going your way. But I'm going to pose a question to you at the very beginning of the show this week. When was the last time when Rangers were involved did you dread a Scottish Cup final? Because that's how I feel right now. I'm like, oh God, I wonder what's going to happen. Do you know what? I don't even wonder what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen, and that's based on at least the last 3 games worth of evidence as to exactly what's going to happen, and it's not a good feeling. It's one of these things. I think that the feeling I have for the cup final is kind of like if you counterpart it to our colleagues down in the Premiership down in England. And Man United for their FA Cup final against Man City. Both games, quite honestly, I think could end very, very, very badly, as we seem to just systematically find ways to lose against them. Sometimes it's very creative in what we do, but the most consistent part is, of course, that we continue to lose games against them. And until there's a clear out of personnel, that won't change. I'm not going to single out any specific player, but there's just a philosophy, an ethos at the club right now, and it seems to be that second best is okay. I'm not saying they don't want to win. I don't think that's true at all. I do think they want to win. I just don't think that they can with this existing structure, the existing personnel that is in there. And I mentioned last week, is it going to be a magnificent May or a messy May? And it's turning out to be a messy May, isn't it? And I just can't see how we turn this around to give us some sort of magnificence on the 25th. But that's just the aftermath, a little bit of a hangover from what happened on Saturday, and then we'll see what happens over the next wee while to get us towards that part. Here's some food for thought though. Giovanni van Bronckhorst started very, very well and then fell away after he took over from Steven Gerrard. Michael Beale started very, very well and then fell away. And Philippe Clement is doing the exact same thing. The only common denominator between all 3 of these guys is the players that they continue to pick and the players that are at their disposal to pick at the same time. So, at one point, like nothing, life just doesn't work like this. At one point, Clement is on this absolute tear. We're starting to keep an eye on the prize. If we get beyond the Kilmarnock game a couple of months back, and then in the Hearts game after that, and then we're in good shape, then we're going to be okay, and I think the league is ours. It's just not as simple as that, especially with a crop of players that have a habit of losing when it comes to the big games, and we were kind of thinking he had some sort of magic potion or magic formula, but the players are just doing what the players do, and unfortunately we've seen it too many times for what we get, and it's tough. And if you think about this in terms of just the last 6 league games, 2 wins, 2 defeats and 2 draws. 2 wins, 2 defeats and 2 draws. 8 points from 18. And we are 6 points behind going into the last 2 games of the season. Convert any of those into a win and we're in a better position, of course, mathematically. But we just... When did we lose the league? Was it at the beginning of the season? I was actually thinking about this morning, that, this league campaign started off on a massive downer. We had a very, very lacklustre pre-season, and we're kind of like, that's odd. And then we go to Kilmarnock and we were just absolutely rotten that day. So was that the day that the rot set in, and the rest of it's been the rest of it? Or, what's fresh in our memory right now is the last 4 or 5 weeks when we've actually genuinely made a mess of things, especially to the teams that we shouldn't be making a mess of it to. But I don't know, does it really matter at this stage? Maybe not. It depends what mood you're in for right now. Right now, as I'm recording, it's 2:12 p.m. on Monday, and I'm kind of starting to get back to the half full version. And this is a bit lame, but if someone had said in mid-October we would take it to the third last game, technically to the second last game of the season because it's not been won yet. Would we have taken it? Based on where this squad is, based on where this football club is, I would say yes, we would probably have taken that to say, oh, there must have been some sort of turnaround. That's incredible. But based on where Rangers Football Club as an institution of winners should be, I'd say definitely not. Not even remotely close would we take it. You know, we need to be winning the league. We need to be genuinely, really seriously campaigning for and challenging for the league championship every single season. And we had a wee purple patch for a while there. We got all excited and then we did the usual, which was just puked into our own laps, and that's a bit of a downer. So I'm going to lighten up a wee bit here with what Gaz got wrong last week, and there was actually two, and two came from family members as well. If Andy Carey had told me something that I did wrong, Andy Carey Jr. that is, I would have had a hat trick of Carey's telling me that I did something wrong. So I said last week that we haven't beat the mob from the East End since Steven Gerrard left. What I meant was we haven't beat them in the league. I know that we had that cup victory against them when Giovanni Van Bronckhorst was in charge, and thank you very much to Chloe for pointing that out, and of course, as always, thanks very much for listening. And I made a mess of the petition for the Renfrewshire Council thing. I said it was all the vandals that was pushing over the headstones. Apparently it's Renfrewshire Council who are pushing over the headstones in Hawkhead Cemetery in Paisley because I think it's because they're unsafe and they're just pushing them over. This is it could only happen in Paisley sort of thing, because it makes way less sense to me now that that's actually what happening. If you have zero idea what I'm talking about, I encourage you to go back and listen to last week's pod, but probably don't bother because you're not going to be any more educated. You're probably going to be stupider for the occasion, I would suspect. So it's the council that's pushing them over, so it's the councils that are the vandals, and the vandals aren't the vandals on this occasion. And thanks to Debbie, my sister, for pointing that one out. Okay, enough fun and hilarity. Let's get on with the depressing stuff. One game last week, of course, and that was Saturday's 2-1 defeat at Sharkhead. That gave us just another opportunity to see how we are genuinely second best in this league. We almost started the game with an own goal. I think that was in the first minute, wasn't it? First minute, maybe the second minute, something like that. And then we're 2-0 down with two rapid fire goals, kind of just a wee bit beyond halfway through the half. We pull one back very, very quickly to give us a wee bit of excitement in the second half until John Lundstrom decided to get sent off and cap a miserable day and a miserable performance for him. I think possibly, not just because of the incidents, but I think just in general terms, that 40 minutes or 43 minutes or however long he was on the pitch could possibly be the worst 40 odd minutes of football, professional football, that guy has ever played, and he deserved a red card. I thought it was fair in the beginning when it was a yellow, then saw it on replay and I was like, well, okay, that's a red. We would be screaming for it if it was the other way around. And the only thing I'd say about that, to compound the disappointment in John Lundstrom and his performance on the weekend there, is that he just didn't hit that little runt Johnson hard enough. He couldn't even get that part right. So we played over a full half with 10 men. We kept it at 2-1, but we didn't trouble Joe Hart at all. We had one shot on target and we scored with it. So that gives you an idea of how we did in terms of chance creation and such. I don't know, I mean, we all seen the game. That's 3 times in a row that we've went 2 goals behind. Three league games in a row, 2 the mob from the East End, we've went 2 goals behind before we've started to rally and play and kind of get ourselves back into the game. You can't afford to do that against anyone whatsoever, not even Livingston, not even Ross County. Well, I shouldn't even say Ross County because they beat us and then they get spanked 5-1 by Motherwell on the exact same ground. I don't know. It's been a hell of a time. Let's just say that. Positives. CD9 getting his goal, it was terrific. He was isolated pretty much most of the game up there on his own, so to be in the right place at the right time for the goal. And I thought the goal was a really good goal. Actually, I thought that was really good. I think keeping the score respectable after the red card is an achievement in and of itself. Super Jack Butland was just absolutely incredible the whole game, wasn't he? He was just absolutely fantastic. Dujon Sterling was too, and I thought that Diamandi played well, and that despite the 2 goals that we lost that were absolutely garbage again and completely avoidable again, especially the second one. Thanks again, John. I thought the central defence was actually solid enough. Suter did okay, Davies did okay. Obviously, I was expecting a bomb scare like we had the last time. They were our central defensive partnership at Shark Head, and I thought they did well, especially Davies. He plugged away the whole game, and I thought McCausland made a bit of a difference when he came on as well. Oh, and I guess congratulations again to the team for no bookings again, almost. Actually, Alec in the club criticised me once Lundstrom got the red card, saying that I had kind of goaded the team into that, and I don't know if I take any responsibility for that. Thanks, Alec, for thinking that I have more genuine influence and reach than I do on these podcasts, but there's something to be said, folks, about no bookings. And again, once again, I want to be super duper clear. I'm not talking about going out and just kicking people for the sake of it, but there's strategic yellow cards that you would take as part of your desire to win a game, and it doesn't seem like we put ourselves in a position to do that, which is just odd. It really is. I can't think of anything other. Obviously, we got the red card. I appreciate that, but that was just reckless and just stupid, quite frankly. The negatives. The whole game, the whole result, the way we started, again, the goals we lost again. You could see the first goal coming a mile off. We had I don't know how many it was truly, but it felt like we had about half a dozen warnings of what that goal was going to look like before they actually scored it, and then they finally got the breakthrough. Lundstrom wasn't tracking his man. We kind of went too quick to get out to the fellow before he puts it in, and he strikes a good ball and it goes in the back of the net, and it wasn't a surprise when it happened, was it? The second goal was a fantastic combination between James Tavernier and John Lundstrom to combine to get the goal. Tavernier just is terrified of Maeda, isn't he? And he just gets to a point where he's got the ball outside the box. Let's not let him stay there. We're just going to ease him into the box, and then just with absolute ease put the ball over. Lundstrom, I don't know where he's supposed to be. Pretty sure it's not supposed to be there. And then he pops it in, and it's just embarrassing. And I don't know. I don't get. I mean, I get battle scars and I get an understanding if something's happened before that you think it might happen again, but the way that we treat that Maeda is as if he's the second coming of Ronaldo, number 1 and number 2, doesn't really matter, and the guy's just fast and that's it, and he can finish now and again, and we've got this terrification. I don't even think that's a word, but we're just in a situation where we give him all the space that he needs. And then John Lundstrom, we're still in the negatives here by the way, and John Lundstrom's red card was just a farce. And when I say a farce, what I really mean there is it wasn't in a dangerous area. It wasn't for anything other than just to stick a boot on someone to try and in some way, I don't know, do what I was saying with bookings, strategic game management bookings, get the team G'd up a wee bit. The rest of the team just kind of stood and looked at him, and then he gets the red card and he just strolls off there, and his day is done. He did as much damage as he could possibly do in the time that he was on the field. It just absolutely ridiculous, and it cost us again just after he already cost us, so he's doubling down on his costing the club big time. I see that a lot of people have called for the fact that he shouldn't play another game. I will not be surprised whatsoever if he's in the Scottish Cup final in the starting 11 for that. If he plays well and we get the trophy, then good for you, Philippe. It may be an idea to do something different because the guy's been so far off the pace this last while. It's been unbelievable. And look what happens when you continue to play a person who is just not in it anymore. You get a performance and incidents like you got there. I thought another negative was our urgency at the very end of the game. Around about, with about 6, 7, 8 minutes to go, something like that, and Butland comes up, he's in there for a corner or a free kick, I can't remember exactly what it was, and then you're kind of like, well, there's still a bit of time to go here, I don't know if you should be there. And then 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes later, he stays at the back, and then we're doing that little casual jog garbage that we do at the end of the game. Like, run your heart out, guys. Grab the ball, go with intent, take the free kicks quickly, take the corner kicks, take the everything quickly. But we just don't seem to feel or know how to do that, and understand what emptying the tank means. So we just stroll about. And back to the actual very beginning, I didn't think the team selection was very inspiring, and I thought that translated, of course, into the actual performance. Now, this is with the benefit of hindsight, but that's the league done now, and that's a real shame for us, and it's not the way that we wanted it to all go down. But we completely compounded ourselves. Oh, actually, on the positives, I should say Jack Butland's save for the penalty. I thought the penalty was just utterly ridiculous. It wasn't a penalty, and if that's the case, you're going to get players just running and kicking other opposing players going down and getting the penalty. We get a goal chalked off at the beginning of the season for that very thing. It was called a foul outside the box when we did the exact same thing. So yeah, let's talk about consistency, shall we? In terms of the stats, 33% possession, 4 shots on goal, 1 on target, as I mentioned earlier. They had 14 on goal with 6 on target. So the stats kind of tell the story, truly. On the referee watch, Willie Collum, he got himself involved in the game as Willie Collum gets himself involved in the game, doesn't he? He got the red card correct, absolutely no complaints. I think he made a complete mess of the penalty. VAR tells him to go and take a look at it. I thought it was a penalty all day long, very first time I seen it, and on the first replay. And then when I saw the actual other angles, I'm like, oh, there's no danger, that's a penalty, no way. And I thought that the referee had an absolute disaster for that. He was brave enough to book Maeda, Hatate and McGregor, and then decided to let the latter two away with more than one bookable offence after their original yellow cards, just to prove that the bookings, I don't know what you'd call it, window dressing, checking a box, as we would say over here. I don't know. It was just, it didn't cost us the game, folks. I'm not saying that at all. We did that all on our own, but it didn't exactly help either. So I think he's going to get a 5 out of 10 for this one. 2 games this week to wrap up the league campaign as we prepare for the Scottish Cup final, and that's what these 2 games should be. Absolute adequate preparation for the Cup final. And the first one is at home to Dundee tomorrow, Tuesday the 14th of May, with a 2:30pm Eastern Standard Time kickoff. That's 7:30 in the UK. That's our last home game of the season. It doesn't really matter what the results were at this stage of proceedings now that the league is gone. Dundee are a joke, and I hope we absolutely smash them. But you know what? Just even for fun, why don't we go out tomorrow night and win 7-0 against Dundee? Really close down the goal difference, and just give them a little sniff to say, by the way, we need to go and at least get a point at Kilmarnock. It doesn't really matter, but just for a bit of fun, maybe. And we'll see how it goes. The second game is the final game of the season, of course, and that's away to Hearts on Saturday, the 18th of May at 7:30am Eastern Standard Time, 12:30pm UK. And it would just be good to smash them and set us up for, one final monumental push to the Scottish Cup final. I don't think it's going to make any difference in terms of positions in the league or anything like that, but they'll want to end up on a high after a successful season for Hearts, and we'll not want to end up on a bit of a downer as we try and prepare for the biggest game of the season, which is now the week after. On RTV, I didn't hear of anything specific on RTV, but we did have some challenge in Calgary where we didn't have any sound on through the system that we have, the TVs and such, and we've got a process that we follow every time. We've got this new dynamite laptop that's absolutely fantastic, and the sound was coming through the laptop okay, but when we started to put it all through the process in the system, it just didn't come through. So I had to have my phone with on the exact timing of the TV to then at least have folks have a bit of an idea of what it was with the volume up loud. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than nothing. So that's why I wasn't texting so much during the game, if anybody who was texting me was trying to figure out why. And thankfully London Ontario Rangers Sports Club were okay. They put some stuff through there. We got everything. We got RTV on the case, and they said, look, everything looks okay from our side, and thankfully nothing happened during the game, so they got a chance to watch the game. On the shout-outs, I'd like to wish a belated happy birthday to a good friend of mine, Davey McDonald, who celebrated his 38th birthday last Thursday. Do you know what? I actually went to Lodge on Thursday, and then after Lodge we shot straight up the road, picked up Erin, we went over to the pub to meet Davey and Carla, Jamie and Amy as they were over at the quiz night over by Jamie's house, and it was good. We won the quiz, by the way, if anybody's wondering. And then Davey said, is it worthwhile me listening to the pod from Monday? Am I mentioned in it? And I said, wow, that's the only point in time that you would ever actually listen to the NARSA Weekly Update is when you're mentioned in it. And he went, aye, that's it. And I says, well, okay, well, don't bother listening, but listen to next week's. So here you go, Davey. Happy birthday, my friend. And it was great to see you. And it's also great to be part of a winning team on the quiz. Another very hearty congratulations to Mr. Tom Stoltman, who is the world's strongest man again. That's the third time in 4 years, and that he's the world's strongest man. And in the last 5 years, he's had 3 first places and 2 second place finishes. This guy is utterly unbelievable, isn't he? I don't know what the record is, but that feels like he must be getting close to that. And of course, the reason I mention him is he's literally a big blue nose, and it's fantastic that what he's done for raising the profile in the world's strongest man community of Rangers of Scotland and of himself. So congratulations and well done again. I have a bit of a request actually to ask of right now, and we had Dougie Smith contact me from Coburg, the Jailhouse True Blues, and he was asking if there are any Rangers supporters club in the Orkneys. And so if anyone who's listening to this knows of any Rangers supporters clubs who are in the Orkneys, I did a quick Google search and it came up with a kind of post from a while back saying, we're going to watch it here because there isn't going to show it. This is a mixed pub. And so I didn't get like a definitive, yes, there is a club here, come and watch it with us. But he's going to be there for, I believe it's the cup final. And he wants to obviously to get an opportunity to watch that with the boys and girls who are all blue noses in the Orkneys. So if anybody knows if there is an RSC in the Orkneys, could you please get in touch with me at rangersscc@hotmail.com. That's 2 S's and 2 C's, and I'll pass that information on to Dougie, and I'll pose that question on the NARSA communications list as well. The women's team had a good weekend, 1-0 victory over Glasgow City, but unfortunately the mob from the East End had a extended, I guess they must have won 3-0 or maybe 4-0, something like that. I don't look at the results, but we're now 15 goals behind, level on points, 15 goals behind with 2 games to play, so it's going to be a tall order. I was actually looking today at the rules to see if there was anything that said on a head-to-head basis it goes to that first before it goes to goal difference. I couldn't find anything, so I think it's the same structure as ours. It goes to goal difference first, and 15 goals is going to be very difficult to bring back in 2 games. But the good news about that victory is that secured Champions League European football for the women's team for next season. So congratulations, well done and well deserved to Jo Potter and her team. They have 2 games this coming week, and they wrap up their season at the same time. Another reminder of the Toronto Midtown Rangers Supporters Club Cultural Night on the 19th of July at 7 p.m. with the Pride of the Birches accordion band from Portadown in Northern Ireland. No cover charge, but please do email them tmrsc1998@outlook.com to reserve your spot. Convention update. Now, this is the fun stuff that we can get to here and generate a wee bit of excitement. I can now officially confirm it's 395 days. 395 days. We're in the 300s, folks. Before we know it, it's going to be less than a year. Mark my words, because that's how it works. A day goes away every single time a day passes. 395 days and 56 weeks until we descend upon Kissimmee in Osceola County in Florida from the 12th to the 15th of June 2025. Of course, and as mentioned the last couple of weeks, we have been considering entertainment options specifically for the Friday night. And what I can confirm this week is that we are formally not going to be progressing with a flute band option for the convention next year in Kissimmee. And instead we're going to be working on other entertainment options for the Friday night. So if that makes your decision easier as to whether you're going to attend or not attend, we won't be having a flute band at the convention in 2025. So if that helps, as I say, make up your mind. Hopefully you'll still join us. We're going to do something very, very Rangersy and very, very appropriate to the occasion. It's going to be an absolutely brilliant time based on what we're considering. For right now, I can't tell you because we haven't really fully formalised what it's going to be. But we certainly have an ample substitution for that. But as I say, no flute band for that particular one. I did mention last week, and you'll probably remember my disappointment last week about the initial communication that we had put out jointly between ourselves, the club and Experience Kissimmee. With that, we did have a very, very productive meeting last Tuesday morning with very open dialogue, I think is probably the best way to say it. And we now have, if you look at the Rangers website, the communication has been updated, the formal communication on the website. The badges, we asked for the NARSA badge to be added, and I know that Nick Thompson was going to be working on that, but my quote is in there now, so it's a more robust, fulsome communication, which was what we were hoping for in the beginning. And what it really did do was it gave us an opportunity to kind of set the scene, talk about roles and responsibilities, talk about do's and don'ts, and give ourselves a good platform from which to work in terms of ongoing communications between all the parties going forward, but primarily between ourselves, NARSA, and the football club themselves. It was a really good meeting. It was very open, it was very honest, and I think we set the scene for some successes going forward. So thanks again to all concerned who attended the meeting, and specifically to Nick, Natalie, who else was there? Nick, Natalie, Greg, and Scott there as well. So we're on the same page now, folks, and I'm very delighted, and thanks again for taking the time from the folks from the club to giving us what we needed to get. So yeah, we've got the confirmation of the hotel, as you know, that was part of the communication, which is the Omni Orlando at Champions Gate, which is in Kissimmee. Okay, and what I can tell you right now is the hotel is now formally, officially open for booking. So when you listen to this, go to narsa.ca, and on the very front page, it will talk about the 2025 convention. Click that, it takes you to the convention page, and then there's a wee red button right in the middle of the page that says book now, and it'll take you to the Omni site. And the booking process, folks, is absolutely slick. It is very quick, it's very easy, and then you'll get your place secured for next year. Now, I want to talk about this a wee bit. So sometimes when we go to a hotel, sometimes they'll take a deposit, sort of almost in kind, where they'll just put a hold on your credit card, but they won't actually charge the money. What Omni are doing is they are taking a first night deposit as literally that is the deposit, and they're calling that a cancellation fee. If you were to cancel at some point in the future, they're going to keep the deposit. This has nothing to do with NARSA. Some hotels do this, some hotels don't. The Omni do this. So you'll get, it's very upfront when you're booking it. It will tell you this is exactly what's happening. As we were going through the testing, a few of our testers had said, I don't think I want to book this right now because I'm not actually 100% sure where I'm going or not. So if you're genuinely definitely going, go ahead and book it, and then that's your first night paid. If you're kind of on the fence, you're going to have to take a chance and wait until you know it for real. Or you book it right now with a view to the fact that you're going, and if you change your mind or you can't go, you can maybe transfer it to someone else down the road. But we'll put the link on the blurb for the pod for tonight. The general rooms are $199 per night. Now that's subject to 14.5% tax, which then takes you to, the tax is roughly just under $29, so it's about $228 US, American is what you're going to get charged. And just pay attention to the deposit part as well, folks. If you don't want to get embroiled in that for right now, or you don't want to be, have that as part of your burden if you're considering it, then don't book it until you're ready to do so. Now, if you are intending to go and you are intending to book it, please do that kind of quickly, because we've only got so many rooms before and so many rooms afterwards. There's only so much liability we as NARSA are willing to take in terms of our before and after liability, and we had to write it into the contract. Sometimes hotels give us it as a courtesy, just thanks for our custom, but the Omni didn't do that, and so this is part of our contract. If it comes to pass there are no rooms before or after that you're looking for, please do get in touch, and then we can, if we get enough people, we can go back and sign an addendum, and if the hotel still has space available, then they'll give it to us and then we can open it back up again. But the main point of this whole thing, they are literally open for booking now. Please go ahead and book as quickly as you possibly can, and get in touch if you have any problems. And I mentioned the website earlier there, that we have updated the website. It wasn't when we did the communication, we were still going through some of the updates to the website. It's been fully updated now, and we're essentially just going to add to that as we get player announcements and such. So we'll give ourselves a good opportunity to do that as we move forward. Okay, on to the communication section for this week, and a kind of light-ish one. The Gers guide was out quite early today, but I didn't see any of the loan stuff. Did you see that Sam Lammers did not score last week? What is that guy all about? And that was kind of garbage for him. But I don't know when the loan review will be out. I assume it will be out tomorrow. It wasn't out by the time I started recording. But today we had the press conference for the Dundee game. the usual stuff. Cyril Dessers was there, Philippe Clement was there. They kind of just, what do you say after what happened on the weekend? It is what it is. There's also a feature on RTV today for away days, which is the women's team versus Glasgow City. Well worth a watch. Tomorrow, of course, is the game, the last home game of the season against Dundee. Wednesday, the Rangers women's team are away to Hibs, and that's a 6 p.m. UK kick-off time. Nothing so much happening on Thursday. Friday's a press conference for Hearts. Saturday's the Hearts game at 12:30 p.m. UK, and then Sunday is Rangers women's final game at home to Partick Thistle, and that's at 2:10 p.m. kick-off time. They have some weird kick-off times, don't they? So yeah, that's what we've got for the Gers Guide for this last week of the regular season, or the league season, I should say. Anyway, I did want to mention this one article on the Rangers website, that Rangers are the first club in Scotland, I believe, for the support in a gambling education endeavour that they're doing. Some of the first team players have gone through it, and it's another reminder for me that it's more than just the first team and the women's team that are playing. And sometimes I talk about the B team, but not very often. And then the last couple of weeks we're talking about the under 18 team after their cup success. But for the most part, we always think of the club as the players on the field, but it's wider than that. And I think doing something like this, especially when you see a lot of gambling bans that are now being handed out, that's not new. But it's just good to see the club do something, proactive in that space to try and help the young players, the existing players, and just essentially raise awareness that the problem of gambling still exists very much today in football. I'll put a link to the article if you haven't seen it. Go take a peek if that's your jam. And probably the most important part of the communications from the club this last week was, of course, the confirmation that the Walter Smith statue is going to be unveiled on the 25th of May, which of course is Scottish Cup final day. I don't recall the article saying exactly what time it's going to be, but I assume it would be, mid to late morning, and then that gives the chance, it actually maybe even gives a chance for the first team to be there before they head off to Hampden. I'm not 100% sure if that's what the plan is, but certainly Ethel Smith and the boys there will be there, Stephen and Neil, of course, and the grandkids and stuff, to get an opportunity to see the finished article. I'm sure they've seen it before, or certainly the prototype, and see what the great man means to our wonderful club at the same time. So really looking forward to that. I'm sure the club are going to do a fantastic job on that in terms of what they do, and then probably the TV coverage of that at the same time for, as I say, this wonderful man. I did mention the NARSA website earlier today, and what I'm starting to realise here is that, especially on the club pages, we have a lot of either missing or stale dated information there. We were trying to reach the Ajax club, for example, on the weekend there, as Alan Dixon, one of the Calgary members, was out there. And we really haven't had a functional Ajax club for quite some time, so we should actually remove them from the website. But there's other places on the website where either the location or the contacts for each of the clubs is not accurate, or it's not current at the very least. So what we need you to do, and Lorraine will take a lead on this, is make sure everything on the website, all you need to do is look at your page, and if the information is absolutely correct, let us know that it's correct, and that's fine. Test out the links to each of the emails. If your executive committee has changed in any way, please do let us know. That's part of the constitution, of course, and I'm sure everyone who's listening is completely well versed on the constitution. But please do let us know, because we want this to be a functional, value add area that people go to give yourselves the best opportunity to be educated and be able to direct contact people, so that we don't have to get too involved in that kind of thing. Another wee reminder, the Euro 2024 pool thing, I think we need to make a decision on that fairly quickly here. I haven't done any work on that, to be dead honest, so I keep that there just to make myself feel guilty each week. And on the NARSA newsletter, the quiz question for last week was, I played for Bournemouth, Chelsea, Liverpool and QPR before joining Rangers in 1989. Who am I? I genuinely didn't have to Google this one. I knew that it was Nigel Spackman, and I'm sure that most of you did too. And the next quiz question is already ready to go on this week's newsletter, and we'll see how you do with that one. And just a final reminder, I'm going to be doing the interview with Mr. David Holmes on the 22nd of this month. So it's that, 2 weeks away? A week away, just over a week away, something like that. And Really looking forward to that, and actually just 2 weeks away, I guess. And no, it's not. It's the 13th. Whatever. Anyway, you get my drift, and we will get that interview hopefully put out on our airwaves, as they say, on either Scottish Cup final day or probably the day before. I don't think we want to have too much to do that specific day. All right. I can't say I've enjoyed this. I don't know that I've had as bad of a day as John Lundstrom had on the weekend there, but after a heavy defeat like that, especially, I don't mean heavy defeat, of course, in terms of the actual margin of the score. I mean just the heaviness of the implications of that defeat on the weekend. It's tough to be a bit upbeat, but we still love Rangers. We're still going to do the best we can to support them between now and the end of the season. I'm kind of looking forward to the end of the season now, to be perfectly honest with you, and we'll see what Clement and his coaching staff do to our squad over the course of the close season. But this will do it. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you very, very, very much for taking the time to listen. Please do pass it on to whomever you think might enjoy it. We've got less than 2 weeks to recover and see what the Scottish Cup final brings. I've got a rough idea of what it's going to bring, and I kind of alluded to that at the beginning of the pod, but let's see. You never know. We could be surprised one last time for these folks. Until next week, my friends, please do take care of yourself and all the very best, okay? Cheerio now.